Where is the human limit? What does it look like? When we reach the summit of our fears, our pain, our sorrows, our vulnerabilities, do we rejoice? Do we fall? Or do we keep going? The marathon is a 26-mile race. For those who have never ran a distance like 26 miles, that number seems so grueling and painful to even think about. But for Dean Karnazes, it's barely a warm-up. This is the story of the greatest endurance athlete to ever live. This is the story of Dean Karnazes. He was born in Inglewood, California on August 23, 1962, and by the age of 6 years old, he would run to his school for kindergarten class, from his home, changing routes to increase the duration. From an early childhood, he can feel that his body had the potential to simply keep going. By the time he reached 8 years old, he would enter short running events to complement his eagerness for running. By age 11, he hiked across the entire Grand Canyon. At 12, he cycled 40 miles just to see his grandparents. And he did it all for fun. He just had this ability to keep going. In junior high school, Dean joined his school's long-distance running team and won the 1-mile long-distance championship in California. Dean was quoted saying that after the run, he told his coach he started strong and felt pretty good throughout. Thinking that his win would please his coach actually replied saying, "If you felt pretty good, then you didn't push hard enough. It's supposed to hurt like hell." Interestingly, Dean's family moved shortly after to San Clemente, California, and those became the last words he ever heard from his coach. Dean stated that he lives by those words to this day. As a freshman in high school, he joined the school's cross-country team and ran for a charity event where every lap the kids completed, $1 will be donated to underprivileged kids. Most of the students ran about 15 laps, but Dean continued to run. And he ran alone and didn't stop until he completed 105 laps, essentially running a marathon as a freshman in high school. That's when he decided to do something that he never did before. He decided to stop running. He continued his education in business, worked for a successful company, and was making very good money. At this point, he had not run for over 15 years. It appeared that he had found his calling, or so he thought. You see, Dean stopped running, but he never stopped loving to run. It was in his heart, and it kept haunting him as he kept pulling further and further away from the thing that brought him joy and a sense of accomplishment. He thought that success would do that for him. But without running, he felt empty. On his 30th birthday, while at his birthday party, after a few drinks, he told his friends that he's going for a run. Confused by his spontaneous decision, they asked him why. He said that he was going to run 30 miles to celebrate his 30th birthday. His friends laughed and told him that he isn't a runner. Of course, they didn't know his history of running as a young man, but nonetheless, 30 miles with no preparation is no small feat. But Dean was tired, exhausted, and drained. Ironically, he felt all of these feelings not from running, but from not running. And to alleviate the pain, he ran. And from that moment forward, as he ran with the clothes on his back and the night sky above him, he ran through forests and open roads to complete a spontaneous 30-mile run. He felt the feeling he was looking for all these years, the feeling that he had left behind, locked away. He knew what he wanted to do, and that was simply to run. It was at this point that Dean decided to become a runner. Dean looked for every possible race that could take him to his physical limits. He shortly learned about the Western States, a 100-mile run in Nevada that crosses deserts and lakes. At first, he was shocked that there were human beings running that distance without stopping. He couldn't believe it. So of course, he participated and completed the Western States 100-mile run. That solidified his belief in himself and his body. He knew that the sky was the limit and that he could push himself through anything with just sure will. In 2002, he was offered to run a marathon to the South Pole. He ran without snowshoes in negative 13-degree Fahrenheit weather. He ran using a neoprene ski mask to prevent his lungs from freezing due to breathing in negative 13-degree air for such a long duration. Remarkably, he completed the feat. And then there was Badwater. Touted as the most difficult and grueling foot race ever put together. Just to put into perspective how intense and unforgiving this race is, the course consists of a mind-numbing, continuous ascent from the lowest elevation in North America, starting at Death Valley, a staggering 85 meters below sea level, traversing a distance of 135 miles, ascending to the highest contiguous point in the US at 4,450 meters above sea level, which is 13,000 accumulated feet of ascension in one non-stop race. To make matters worse, the heat is deadly, reaching over 120 degrees. The weather is so hot that the participants are instructed to run on the white line off of the asphalt, because if they run on the street, their sneakers would literally melt. The asphalt reaches up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This race is not for the faint of heart and appears to require every ounce of energy and pure will that a human can achieve. This isn't a race that you win. This is a race that you survive. Dean ran this race 10 times, and in 2004, he won the race. It was an amazing achievement, and you would think that with such an amazing achievement, such as Badwater, one would acknowledge the mastery that it took to complete it and feel a level of satisfaction. But not Dean. He set out to do the unthinkable. Dean decided that he would run an impossible 350 miles without stopping, and in 2005, he did just that. He dropped his kids off to school and he ran. He started in October 12th and ended 80 hours and 44 minutes later on October 15th. He ran 13 minutes per mile and burned an unbelievable 41,292 calories on that run. The run was so intense that Dean told interviewers that he would feel sleepy during the run and actually fell asleep for a few seconds while still in motion. Now you must be thinking, wait, this is impossible. How can he do this? He must be some sort of superhuman. Well, there might be some truth in that. You see, our bodies can produce something called lactic acid to assist in the energy that allows you to keep running. However, everyone exceeds their lactic threshold and they can no longer continue running. This is when you hit the heavy breathing and your muscles start to seize up. Scientists tested Dean as he ran on a treadmill for 100 miles, and they found something incredibly mind-blowing. Dean never runs out of lactate production. His body somehow buffers the production of lactate and then just reproduces it infinitely. Dean stated that he only really stops running because he eventually gets sleepy. Yes, although he goes through immense pain, he can never hit a wall where he must stop. He has an unusual capacity to just keep going. Dean Karnazes is arguably the greatest endurance athlete of all time. He may not be the fastest, but he can definitely go the farthest. His many feats have shown that he is virtually and literally unstoppable. He continues to mesmerize with amazing feats. He has also ran a marathon in all 50 states for 50 consecutive days, culminating in the New York City Marathon. He also ran 148 miles on a treadmill in 24 hours, swam across the San Francisco Bay, and even ran 3,000 miles across the entire United States, from California to New York City in 75 days, running 40 to 50 miles per day in 2011. It just goes to show that we are capable of so much more than we could ever imagine if we were only willing to go there. And as Dean Karnazes continues to show us, once we get to what we think is impossible, there's nothing else to do except to just keep going. Thank you guys. This is my first video where I talk about an amazing story regarding fitness. In this video, I chose to talk about the story of Dean Karnazes. I noticed that he isn't talked about much, but he definitely needs more of a spotlight because he is arguably the greatest endurance athlete that we have ever seen. His ability to go so far for so long, even without sleep, is just astonishing. As I was reading his story, as I was doing the research for this video, I just found myself flabbergasted on every turn. It's amazing what the human body is capable of. And seeing his story is just so very inspiring. I hope that it helped inspire you and that it opened your minds to the possibilities and the capabilities of the human body. Of course, as always, I want to thank my patrons from my Patreon. I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here. And as always, guys, I'll see you on Wednesday for another FAQ. Peace.